right now. Mr. Xu, help us understand that calculation process. Mr. Yang mentioned it's real-time assessment, real-time calculation for the ground team to get ready for the landing of that vehicle. What does that process look like?
There is a marking point of the separation between the service module and the returner. Then there is, of course, a timing, exactly how to track this whole process landing to the Sizewang banner. Because
is this the Sizewang banner in Inner
Exactly.
Mongolia that we're looking at?
That's the landing site itself. Of course, if you want to land here, you have to go through a trajectory that comes entering the atmosphere as far as the, let's say, West Africa, and then goes through Pakistan, and then through the territories of Tibet, and then come to Sizewang banner in Inner Mongolia. So that is the descending process that you refer to the Earth, let's say, a shuttle point that is from all the way from Africa down to Sizewang banner, according to the inclination of the descending capsule itself. So the image you have just seen, the black with the white spot, is normally infrared images from the ground tracking facility. Normally it's an infrared camera that can shoot the object itself. As far as we can see, it's still in outer space, and it's still communicating with the ground. And it's once it's entering like a shooting star, it will be in the blackout period, where you can see that the plasma and the ironing process of the exterior.
So we won't be able to see it if it's entered the black zone period.
We can see it.
We can
still
see it
see
through
it.
an infrared camera.
We can see it. We can targeting it and also tracking it, but we cannot have the communication with it.
Got it.
Because the recovery one has already found it. Okay. So just several minutes when we first time see this video, we heard that the recovery one has already captured the. I believe that it is already in the territory of China. Because usually, you know that we have many live coverage of the return of the Shenzhou spaceship before, just in this studio, and usually the recovery one and the recovery two are the readers to receive the signals. Great. So the recovery 2 has already captured the vehicle, the returner, and also from the voice of the ground staff, probably maybe at this moment is already get out of the blackout area, because they mentioned that they captured in bilateral ways. So not only the communication, all the signals received from the ground station, but also maybe it is also has already established the communication between the ground and the vehicle.
Again, we're looking at the possible landing site in Sizewang banner, Inner Mongolia. You will see that this is vast grasslands, flat terrain, all ideal for the landing. The retrieval of the returner, because if it's mountainous, then it's going to be problematic. So the grassland, flat terrain is specifically chosen for this purpose. And I seem to remember the last time with the Chang'e-6, in the tracking process, we had the help of international partners.
Yes.
Is it the same this time around that we...
Exactly. As you mentioned about the 10 or 20 minutes before, you mentioned that the returner has separated from the orbiter. So at that moment, the altitude is about 5,000 kilometers high. So at that moment, it's still far from the territory of China. So with the help of our ground station in Argentina, all the ground stations by European Space Agency, we can have the very precise measurement of the trajectory outside the atmosphere. So that is also very necessary for the as a very important information for other ground stations along the trajectory to capture the vehicle as soon as possible.
Okay. And when the returner is approximately 10 kilometers above the ground, it will detect the atmospheric pressure and altitude. It will then deploy the drogue parachute by releasing the parachute container over to decelerate the vehicle. And finally, it will apply braking techniques before extending the main parachute to ensure a controlled and safe landing.
The returner contains sample containers. which can easily be damaged by excessive overload. Therefore, we must ensure that the overload does not exceed 5 times the force of gravity throughout the entire return process. Before the drogue parachute deploys, the descent speed ranges from 110 to 130 meters per second. Once the parachute opens, the speed decreases to approximately 60 to 70 meters per second.
Yeah, we're still monitoring the returner of the Chang'e-6 mission as it enters the Earth's atmosphere. How far away, Professor Yang, are we from the parachute deployment?
Well, it is very interesting. That just several seconds before, I heard a voice from the ground staff. The tracking task of the Chang'e ground station has already been accomplished. You know that the Chang'e is very close to the Jiuqian satellite launch center. This means that at this moment, at this right moment, the returner is already to the east of the Jiuqian satellite launch center. So it's already very, very close, maybe several hundred kilometers from the Siziwang banner. So I believe that within several...
Are we looking at the deployment of the parachutes already? I seem to think. Yeah, it does seem...
We can just see the light beacon.
Yeah, Professor Yang was just saying that it's going to be very, very close to its predetermined, pre-designed landing site in Inner Mongolia.
Yeah.
It does look like there's a parachute above.
Yeah. So the visible light cameras has already captured the returner.
Okay, so these are the cameras.
So
Okay, the main
drogue
parachute
has already
is
been
now being
jettisoned.
deployed.
And the main parachute will be deployed soon. So it has 2 parachutes. One is the drogue chute, which will be deployed first to deaccelerate the returner first, and at a very safe velocity, after jettisoning of the or separation of the drogue chute, the main parachute will be deployed.
And it's a stark contrast to what we witnessed with the Chang'e-5 mission because it was midnight back then, and this is broad daylight. We're able to get a very good visual of the returner as well as the parachute. The parachute is always in bright colors, so people can spot that very easily. But the last time with the Chang'e-5 mission, we had to use a lot of infrared images. It was a bright spot in pitch dark night, and this time it's much easier to spot both the returner and the parachute.
But if you remember, Zhongshi, that time when the capsule landed, there was some kind of rodent that was roaming around. It was like a small mouse or rabbit that showed up in the camera.
You know that Siziwang banner is very close to my home city, Huhehot. You know, this moment is almost the most comfortable season in Mongolia. Comparing with last time, as you mentioned, in December 2020, it's extremely cold and the temperature can reach to 40 degrees minus below the zero. So this time, and you can see that the sky is very, very clear and it's in a very good weather. So this time, even for the ground team, is more comfortable for the comparing with the last time.
Absolutely. It's great to hear that the job is somehow easier given the complexity of the system, the ground system, to locate the vehicle.
Yeah, exactly. So we should emphasize that the safe return of our Chang'e-6 probe is not only the task of the probe itself, of the rocket, but also the whole system, especially the TT and C system. The telemetry, telecontrol, and the communication system plays a very extremely important role in the whole process. So every critical step, with the help of the TT and C system, we can have the proper operations, and including this return.
So the time window we have today, early afternoon, which as we said is rather ideal. How was this time window chosen?
Well, there are many different factors. First, we should consider about the position, the relative position of the moon to the Earth. So only at a certain position we can get the operation we call the trans-Earth orbit insertion, which means that with the main engine of the orbiter, we just accelerate it to the speed the escape velocity relative to the moon, and then it will go into the what we call the trans-Earth orbit from the moon. Moon. It will take about 3 to 5 days for the vehicle. During this whole process, we have to keep a mid-course correction. Great. So from the voice of the commander, we can hear that the communication is normal, and also the status, including the attitude of the returner, is in a very good condition. So
we just saw the cameras mounted on the convoys, right? Part of the ground team
probably
moving
this
their
is
way.
yes. This is a video from mounted on the ground vehicle or on the helicopter.
Okay.
I think there are a number of predictions. We just heard that there's number fourth time prediction that they will be more precise. Of course, it goes along with the trajectory, with the wind, with the deployment of the parachute and the carry of the wind to the landing site. So,
The
Okay,
fifth.
so this is the fifth prediction.
The fifth
so it's
prediction
getting more
information.
precise. The ground team is going to rush over to get ready to receive the capsule itself.
So how many predictions are there in total before we can get a pretty good idea of when and where that vehicle is going to land?
So we've already seen the fifth one.
This is the fifth
So
one.
you know that at this moment, because of the parachute has already been deployed, so the control system of the returner does not work at this moment. So what we consider about is the wind. We must have a very precise measurement with readers and other ground facilities to measure the wind speed, and with this help we can have a more precise prediction. Maybe we will have another prediction, and also the Beijing Flight Control Center will announce the final prediction, and also the ground staff and the helicopter will go to the final prediction point.
So there's a calculation from trajectory to the meteorologies. So right now it's just a carry of the wind that determines the final spot. Of course, it's already descended within a few kilometers above the Earth. So I think it's quite precise at this moment, the fifth prediction, and it won't be too far to gather this because you have visual all the time, so it won't be lost.
Are you saying you can tell it's only a handful of kilometers above the ground now?
Yes, it's only a few kilometers above the ground.
Okay, then it's going to be a very fast process now. Are we counting a couple of minutes, or are we counting?
The most critical phase of this return process has already been well conducted. So I believe that at this moment also the ground staff and the Beijing Flight Control Center, the staff there is relatively relaxed at this moment.
The most dangerous and unpredictable phases are the blackouts.
Exactly, and also that we adopted a skip re-entry, so it enters the atmosphere twice, and also the control. We have the control. We adopted a semi-ballistic or a semi-lift return process. So it is a controlled vehicle. We also have the propulsion system on board the returner to control the attitude and then control the direction of its lift forces to adjust its trajectory towards the predicted or the designed landing point. But you know that this. For what I mentioned, this procedure is all depend on the vehicle itself. We can do the ground cannot do anything if anything wrong happened. So what we can do is to just predict if there are any deviation from the theoretical landing point and the real one. But you know that this moment, obviously, the ground staff, the ground station work very properly.
We're now able to get a closer and better look of the return capsule and the parachute with the bright stripes. Mr. Xu said it's just a couple of kilometers above the ground now, so we should expect a landing relatively soon. You're watching and monitoring the whole process for you right here on CGTN. Make sure you stay with us as we bring every step of the return process of Chang'e-6 to you. Again, you're looking at the Sizewang banner in Inner Mongolia. It was also the location for the return of the Chang'e-5 mission at the end of 2020. That mission brought soil from the near side of the moon. This time, soil samples have been collected from the far side of the moon. The first time in humanity's history. What secrets will that reveal? is on the minds of a lot of people watching this process, whether that will provide clues to the evolution and composition of the moon, the differences between the far and near sides of the moon, and also the solar system's history. Everyone is watching this process very closely.
So touching down could be happening at any minute because it's very close to the ground, but its descending speed is a few meters per second. So it takes some time to descend for the final couple of kilometers, but it's going to be on the precious puzzle is going to be on the ground at any time, I think.
We're expecting a landing anytime soon.
So-
We're watching the descent of the returner.
返回
Landing.
器着陆。
返回器着陆。
It's landed. You can hear applause from the ground control and command center as people watch this with breath that is bated. Soil from the far side of the moon now brought back to Earth in that return vehicle. We have a pretty good visual of the landing site now.
Now we see is a video from the camera mounted on the
helicopter.
Yeah.
Yes,
we can see that from the above.
So the helicopter is on standby. It will also guide the ground team as they move closer
Yeah, it
to
also
retrieve.
can give the right coordinate to help the ground team to go there as soon as possible.
They've done drills like this many times before
Yeah.
to make sure that different systems can cooperate with each other in a swift and efficient manner.
So this is history. Far side of the moon, first time landed on
Yeah.
Earth.
Absolutely, we're watching history being made today as soil samples collected from the far side of the moon have landed in Sizewang Banner, Inner Mongolia, in China. It will be some time before the ground team can
北
move
京
in
雄鹰报告，
and
我是北京
locate
雄鹰，请讲。
the returner.
直升机目视返回器呈倾斜状态，报告完毕。
So it's reporting that the
北京，明白。
helicopter is watching the return vehicle, and it's not exactly upright.
It's in an incline, yeah.
It's yes. Does that matter? Is that a good sign?
doesn't
Is that
matter.
It doesn't
okay?
matter,
Yeah. Because you know that this is a manned re-entry capsule, so it's not so complex comparing with the return of the Shenzhou spaceship. So we don't
Absolutely.
have so many steps. We can still remember that during the return of the Shenzhou spaceship, we have the jettisoning of the heating shield, and also we have a retro rocket to slow down the vehicle. But you know, for this,
北
it
京
can afford the
雄鹰报
impact.
告，
我是北京雄鹰，请讲。
Okay, we just heard from the helicopter
2点
that
上空，返回器概率坐标为东经
the vehicle has
111
landed
度
and
2
is
4分
not in an
5
upright
6秒
position.
东经
It's also been
111度
reporting
2 4分
coordinates
5
of the
6秒
landing site
北
so
纬
that
42度
the helicopter
2
has
4分
arrived
2 8秒
above the landing
北
site.
纬
We can see the dust
2
blow up
4
by
分
the
2 8秒
helicopter's
报告
blades.
完毕。
北京明白。
So it's in safe pocket now.
It's in safe pockets now. It's a much better visual compared to Chang'e-5 because it's broad daylight. We have very good visuals. You can see the helicopter arriving in position.
Yeah.
They will be providing coordinates for the ground
各号
team
注意，
moving
我是
their
北
way
京。北
into the
京第66
proximity
点预报已发
of the
出。
return vehicle.
Yeah. So we can still at this moment, as we discussed, the ground team is continue to have the prediction and report of the final coordinate, the longitude and the latitude of the returner continuously. And also, I should mention that this is the 11th successful sample return from the moon.
我是北京，
all
雄
the
鹰，请
mission
讲。
of human being, but the first one from the far side.
The first one from the far side, the second time for China, and we'll look forward to learning more about those samples. It could take months, even years, before they provide any clues or secrets about the composition and evolution of the
北京明
moon.
白。
Yeah.
东风，我是北京。
And
东风到，
one thing we
北京
should
请讲。
consider, you know, that
北
because we
京
still
第
have
66
the
点预报
propulsion
已发
system
出，
on
后
board the
续
returner,
由东
although
风
only
按计
a
划
very
组
very
织
small
搜索
amount
回收
of
工作。
propellants, but still it is
东风
toxic. So we should
各号注
also
意，
protect the
我是
ground
东
staff
风。
from that.
北京
You know, we're
第66 点
witnessing
预报已发
history
出。
being made today. I do want to talk to you, gentlemen, both about how history was made this time. We can see individuals on foot an individual on foot making his way to the vehicle. So this means the ground staff have arrived.
The helicopter crew has just approaching this, I think.
So the personnel we're seeing are the helicopter crew. They're not from the ground.
I think ground crews are arriving, but just now we just saw the helicopters landing. The second helicopter is coming. The first one has some crew already have preliminary study of the site, and I think they are coordinating the ground convoy to come as soon as possible. They have to take the capsule back and then carefully, like Professor Yang has mentioned, there's a passivation process, to ventilate all the batteries, the fuels and explosives and pyrotechnics, so that it's in a passive mode, and it's more safe for the scientists to maneuver and to unlock the capsule itself to take the precious cargo out.
So it's interesting because they will take the whole capsule back to Beijing. It's not like they'll just open a hatch and just take the cargo out, right?
Yeah.
They will take the whole thing back to Beijing. It'll be a while before the cargo is unloaded from the vehicle and studied. So it's going to be a process.
So let's say the cargo itself is basically made in Beijing, so that the experts and teams are here, and expertise are here, and the scientific teams are also here. So everything is done properly here in Beijing before it's launched. So it's coming back to Beijing is more safe rather than opening the puzzle in the landing site.
Got it. Because they have built a specific lunar mission laboratory here in Beijing where they will have a safe environment to unseal what has been contained in that cargo. It's not like unboxing a gift box. It has to be done meticulously in a safe environment, safe and scientific environment.
And not only that, but also the Chang'e-6 itself, including the landers, the ascenders, and the descenders, and the returners, are all made in Beijing. So everything has more expertise and technical support, let's say, in Beijing. So it's more safer to open it here.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we will get their container out of the returner in the ordinary room, but we will open the container in the vacuum chamber. So that's very important for us.
What does that container look like? Because I don't think I've got a good
Well,
look.
it is a cylindrical one.
Yes.
Yeah, cylindrical one. So not very big. It is very interesting that the design, the capacity is 2 kilograms of samples, but that greatly depends on the density of the sample itself. So that is reason, although it is also very normal, but last time during the Chang'e 5 mission we get the 1.731 kilograms of samples. This is because the density is lower than the normal condition. But that's still very in the design margin. So I hope that this time we can get more than 2 kilograms.
And it's like one of the car pistons, if you can imagine.
Yeah.
One of the car pistons or cylindric shape of the of the engine. One of the engine piston is shaped like
exactly.
that. Yeah.
So they're reporting that the return capsule does look intact from the outside. Okay, now we're getting a good visual of what is happening.
Yeah.
On
As
the
Yan
ground
Song
here,
mentioned,
in
it's
good
in an
status.
inclined position.
Because on the charcoal side, is the black side has been burned out during their entry, and the lighter color on the top has not experienced these burnings and plasma impacts, so it was looked more or less the
quite
original
different.
colors.
And another thing why it is inclined is because that the design, the center of its mass has a deviation from this cylindrical axis. This is to have control, to have a attack of angle during the re-entry to make it possible for the controlled changing the direction of the lift.
So this is a good color because you can see only one side is burned. If it's completely burned, it means it has been tumbling in the atmosphere, which is not not in a controlled descending process.
What Yan Song mentioned is a ballistic re-entry. So that's not controlled, not like this one.
Probably why we've been hearing good status, judging by just the surface and the outside of the return capsule.
东风雄鹰报告，
雄鹰奖
You see
雄鹰
individuals.
is a helicopter.
已传出，
You see individuals assessing the status
报告完毕。
of the returner.
Yeah.
东风明白。
He's making sure that the capsule is safe enough to be approached by human beings. All the radiations, all the fuels are safe. So
He's
that
not wearing any protective gear by
but
the
he's
looks of it.
using the probe to
Sure.
detect the level of radiations and level of
猎协
toxic
架
materials.
设完毕。
The propellants,
报告完
the
毕
toxic propellants.
Yes.
Yeah. So
东风明白。
you can see this is the shape of the returner is like a bell. And the total mass of this returner is about 300 kilograms, much smaller than the returner of the
Main capsule.
main capsule, which is about 3,000 kilograms. So this is much smaller than that.
It's about 1 meter in diameter. something
probably,
like that?
yeah.
Okay.
Well, let's say it's just a miniature of the human moon landing process, because the Chang'e-6 is a complete process for human mission. But it's
Exactly.
just a miniaturized process.
What Yansu mentioned is what we call the lunar orbit rendezvous, because you know that for the that I always mention to the media that our Chang'e 5 and Chang'e 6 missions are like an unmanned minimized Apollo missions, because the whole mission profile is almost the same. With the rendezvous and the docking in the circumlunar orbit. So this is the most complicated mission design, but has the highest efficiency. So that is the reason why we can get about 2 kilograms of samples with such a small vehicle.
Because there are easier ways to get samples,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
former Soviet Union, Russia has used simpler approach to get samples. But this is we choose the hard way because we want to demonstrate technically that these are possible and they can be mastered by the future manned mission. So
Got
this
it.
is the preparation of the future mission.
We went the extra mile just to make sure that this can demonstrate the capabilities for future manned missions.
现场环
We
境
choose
安
it
全
not because
报
it's
告
easy,
完毕。
because it's hard.
We just heard the voice that the environment nearby
Chinese
is safe
national-
enough for the ground staff.
The Chinese national flag has been raised at the landing site of the Chang'e-6 mission. And we just heard reports that the proximity has been assessed as safe for
东方
individuals,
雄鹰
for
报告，
human personnel
雄鹰奖
to move in and take a closer look
经现场测量，
at the
返回
capsule.
器落点坐标为东经111度
Once again,
2分
marking
动5
another
秒，
victory of the moon
东经
race.
111度
Exactly, a
2
big
分
step
动5
there,
秒
and they're now
北
reporting the
纬
exact
42度2
coordinates
分
of the
43
landing
秒
site.
北纬42度2动分43秒，报告完毕。
Well, this is the final report of
东风明白。
the concrete
北京
coordinates
东
of
风报
the
告。
returner.
我是北京
This is not a
东风
prediction.
视角。
落点现场测量完毕，落点经度为东经111度
So they're reporting that the
2 分
measurement has been
动5秒
completed at the landing site,
东经
Yeah.
and they're just giving the
111
specific
2
coordinates
分动
of
5秒，落
But
点
this
纬度
coordinate is not only for this single time, but it's also for calculation of future missions. Either it's manned or unmanned missions. These are important data and parameters to calculate future prediction sites.
Yeah, yeah. So what Yansu mentioned, that this is the third time for China, not the second time return from the second cosmic velocity. Because that just before the Chang'e 5 mission, we have a mission called the Chang'e 5 T1. So with that mission, we test the technologies necessary for the return of a spacecraft with a speed more than 11 kilometers per second.
根据北京实时数据监视判断及着陆场报告，嫦娥6号返回器已正常返回预定着陆区域。下面请嫦娥6号任务总指挥部总指挥长张克俭同志宣布任务结果。
Ms. Zhang Hejian is the administrator of CNSA.
It's my boss.
Yeah.
We'll be hearing a statement from the director of the China National Space Administration on the Chang'e-6 mission. The ground staff just said that the landing has been completed. We'll take a listen to what the director will be saying.
根据北京航天飞行控制
According
中心报告，
the
嫦娥
monitoring
6
of
号
Beijing
返回
Aerospace
器
Control Center,
已
the
经着
returner
陆
of
于
Chang'e-6
内蒙古
mission has landed
狮子王旗
successfully
预
at
定区
Sizi
域。
Wang Banner at the
现在
designated
我
area.
宣布，
Now I would like to
探月
announce
工
that
程嫦娥6号
the
任务取得
Chang'e-6
圆满
lunar
成功。
mission has achieved a complete success.
And this just in, the Chang'e-6 return module has successfully touched down in North China's Inner Mongolia region. The announcement you heard just now